Good afternoon, Mr. Miller and Board of Directors. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to consult your company. My name is Kelsey, and my colleagues are Brent and Tommy. Union Jack newspaper is looking to expand internationally into North America. However, due to its revenue structure of basing solely on advertisements, it cannot generate a sustainable long-term income. Also, there is a trend moving from newspapers into online web media. We hope to solidify for you today how Union Jack newspaper can monetize and drive long-term into a sustainable and renewable business. This is an overview of our presentation today. This is the question we have considered: how to drive Union Jack newspaper into Canadian and online market. We have identified the issues, and from these issues, we derived a criteria in which we came up with the solution of becoming a gateway to British culture. Currently, the newsprint industry is turning into a dog, but we want to bring it back to where it is in the cash cow section. We have identified 3 key issues. The first is a weak nonprofit presence because of the lack of brand awareness. Also, youths are not aware of this industry and where the newsprint industry is going based on the trends in them accessing online websites as opposed to newspapers. And lastly, there is uncertainty in the new Canadian market on how newsprint is received. Brent will now go over the criteria.
Thank you. So, Union Jack, we need to create a solid web platform because the industry as a whole is transforming from print to web content. And without a solid web platform, as Mr. Miller yourself predicted, print will decline in 10 years. And all that is left will be the web. And so a solid web platform is crucial to long-term growth. We need to apply this platform to the youth, because the youth is a market that has not been accessed by Union Jack newspaper and will be a key driver of future growth. Looking at the short run, the expansion into the Canadian market, Union Jack newspaper needs to secure advertisers for the Canadian print edition. With the first issue coming out this December, a lot of the advertisement is still carried over from the American version. And so we need to be able to monetize that and secure Canadian advertisers. The last criteria is how to achieve growth, revenue, goals while minimizing costs. Mr. Miller yourself has set very ambitious and solid goals with $200,000 in revenue in the first year and up to $750,000 in revenue in the 5th year. We will look at how our solution helps you achieve these goals. Let's take a look at the revenue model right now. Profits are a function of revenue minus costs. Where do revenues come from? Revenue come from 2 data points: circulation, how many newspapers are in circulation, and site traffic, that is for the online content. And from that, Union Jack newspaper can sell ad revenue per area. Ad revenue is itself a function of circulation and site traffic. The more circulation, the more site traffic, the more the newspaper can charge for ad revenue. Costs: producing in-house content, paying salaries of employees, producing outside content, paying freelancers, and paying for the newswires, and selling costs such as printing and shipping. There is no fundamental way for any newspaper to change this sort of profit revenue model. And so the only way to ensure revenue growth in the future is to increase these 2 points here, either circulation or site traffic, and as a function of that, increase ad revenue. So with the industry transforming from print to web, site traffic will become more and more important. So we will focus our solutions on how to increase site traffic to Union Jack newspapers' online platform. Looking at these criteria and how to solve the overarching issue of driving growth in this uncertain market, we have looked at 3 possible solutions. And these solutions are arranged on a risk to reward continuum, with risk represented by costs and chance of failure. So more risky means cost more and more likely to fail. And reward being a function of profit, revenue, and site traffic. The first is the status quo, doing what the paper is doing right now, replicating the print version on the web. This has a low risk and low reward. It's a low risk and low reward situation. Why? Because there is simply not much cost. The newspaper is operating just as it is, and all it has to do is take print content and move that to the web. And there's also a low reward situation, because on the web, for websites that aggregate or produce news content, there is intense competition. And Union Jack newspaper simply does not have the scale to innovate further or become a hegemon in this category. The next solution that we looked at is to erect a subscription paywall. So this is one of the ways that to renew a revenue model and to drive revenues up. This is considered a medium risk, medium reward solution because there is a large chance of failure. From my own experience, the only newspapers that have been able to successfully implement a subscription paywall online are newspapers such as the Capital, Wall Street Journal, and the New York Times. So if the Union Jack newspaper does try to implement this solution, there is actually a large chance of failure. Our last and the preferred solution that we will recommend to you is to become a cultural gateway. And we will explain later what exactly this entails. This is the highest risk, indeed, and the highest reward, because none of the other 2 options will provide Union Jack newspaper with the web platform that will drive long-term growth. To do that, Union Jack newspaper needs to change its game completely and get into being a middleman for importing British culture to North American customers. This indeed has a high cost of having to do everything different from what is before, but we believe this solution is the right recommendation for the paper because it is the only way that the paper can drive long-term growth. So Tommy will talk about how to secure advertising for the Canadian market in the short run.
Thank you, Brett. Yeah, for the solution of gateway of Union Jack becoming a gateway to British culture, 2 things are very important. One is first, we have to secure advertising for the Canadian market to establish our foundations and to expand our financial basis and to build on our currently established product. The second is, of course, to become the gateway. Now, short-term implementation. First 2 things we need to do is establish our advertising and our distribution. For advertising, Union Jack readers have mostly come from a background of someone who wishes or plan to visit England in the near future. We have decided that to find advertisers to fund our newspaper, we have to focus on these few specific industries. One is travel agency. Travel agency is a great choice for us because 49.3% of our readers have actually gone to purchase travel agency products. So things such as airplane tickets. Also, tourist sites in UK and United Kingdom will be very interested in advertising in our magazine and our newspaper because 58% of our readers have proceeded to go on to visit UK and to spend money there on attractions. Similarly, restaurants, pubs, and resorts will be a great potential advertiser for our newspaper because, again, our clients, our readers, like to learn about this culture, about this culinary culture, and then explore them and spend money on them. Similarly, our hotels, again, is a very similar situation. Advertisers and competitors. By this, I specifically refer to the British Canadian. It is also a newspaper that's very similar to Union Jack that's being published in Vancouver Island right now. They only distribute in 3 provinces, and many of their advertisers have already established their interest in Union Jack. And we could very easily just contact them to negotiate whether they want to also advertise in our newspaper. And the last choice will be advertised from England. This is because 78% of our readers have plans to go to England, and 90.2% of them actually carry out these plans and spend their revenue in England. On to the issue of distribution. Now that we're bringing our newsprint to Canada, you have to figure out where is the best place for you to distribute your paper. Now, we decided restaurants and pubs is a necessity. This is because a large percent of readers want to know about where they can get the best British food, what food they should dine, and there's a large flow of customers going in and out of these locations. Universities will be another very interesting choice because a lot of students will go on exchange on a summer trip. They might go on a European trip to go to England. Before they go on any of these, they will like to do research. They will want to know where they can visit, where they can have fun, where they can stay, and Union Jack will offer all those solutions. Airport will be another great choice because at airport there's lots of travelers, and the information provided in Union Jack is absolutely crucial for travelers since they can take those information and adapt it into their own travel plans. And finally, travel agencies, like I mentioned earlier, a large portion of our readers are interested in traveling to England. And here, Brett will tell you about this awesome slide.
So, the newspaper has now established advertising and distribution in the Canadian market for the incoming expansion in December. However, the long-term problem is still not solved. The long-term problem is that there needs to be a strong web platform to drive growth as the industry moves from print to web. So we want to get to the point of how Union Jack newspaper can become a gateway to British culture. These are just one of many bullet points in British cultural imports to North America, and these are vastly culturally significant. Each of these brands' names have enormous brand equity, and there is definitely a market in North America for British culture and their imports. Looking at the other criteria of youth, what commodity do youths value the most as a demographic? Is it money? Perhaps is it academics? No. The demographic that youths value the most is cool. And Union Jack newspaper is in a position to import this commodity from Britain to North America. And this is the crux of how to become a gateway to British culture from North Americans. Your position will be that there is British cultural imports and zeitgeist, and North American youth have a strong demand for this culture and zeitgeist, whether it be football, soccer, whether it be British history, whether it be British contemporary culture, rap, music. And your position will be to become a gateway, a middleman, to import this to North American youth, successfully creating a web platform and appealing to the youth market. Let's talk about what is cool and what is cool washing. What are the components of cool? Cool needs to be authentic. As a commodity, cool cannot come from the top down. It cannot be from government. It cannot be from corporations. It has to be from grassroots. It has to incept from grassroots. And so authenticity is an extremely important component. So Union Jack newspaper, to become a gateway, will have to go the grassroots route. when somebody talks about grassroots, first thing that comes to mind is crowdsourcing. However, there is definitely a problem with crowdsourcing culture tidbits, and that is content quality. So how will we solve the problem of content quality? This is how it's going to work. There will be trending topics online that the newspaper will aggregate and find and summarize. And from these, the newspaper will derive in-house journalism. Articles, expository comparisons, polls, and there will be an editorial filter so that these trending topics online in Britain are filtered through the editorial filter to ensure quality. So where do these grassroots trending topics come from? They will come from discussion forums online in Britain. There can either be general discussions on the general cultural zeitgeist. It can be specifically targeted to youth culture and North American topics. These are the three areas the newspaper should focus on. With discussion in these forums, there will be hits and comments, and from this, the newspaper will be able to derive trending topics. From these trending topics, in-house journalism will be able to create articles that appeal as a platform to the youth. These articles can be expository. What is footy? What is the tube? Right? Many North Americans have a demand and affinity for British culture, but there is also a lack of knowledge. Filling this gap is how the newspaper can create a secure platform. These articles can be in-depth, explaining what is the difference between Manchester United and Arsenal Football Club. And these articles can also be cross-Atlantic comparisons that will hit readers in the core as comparing different values between the British zeitgeist and the North American one. So we have here a web page template of how the web page as a platform should look like, okay? And basically there are trends on the right for readers to browse through, and some of these trends can be sponsored, okay? So this is actually a way to advertise by having sponsors sponsor a trend, perhaps fashion. And so when clicking on the trend, one will see a picture or video of ducks or any other culturally trending topics, and it will say, perhaps, where to find a chaff, a beginner's guide. And there will be comments below to increase viewership and website stay time. So Tommy will talk about how we can increase viewership, loyalty, and traffic.
To increase viewership, loyalty, and traffic, we have decided on several key aspects. One is our website to be user-friendly. This allows viewers to easily find our website through search engine optimization and making our website easier to use. We also have rewards, interaction, and crowdsourcing. All of these will encourage interaction and our customers to come back to our website. Our financial forecast. For our viewer base, we're estimating there will be a 12.25% growth by achieving our plans.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now for the Q&A. All right.
I would like you to go back a couple of slides. Hopefully very far back. I can do way back, way back. There you go, right there. Right there. Oh. Your whole premise, as I heard it, is that North American youth has a demand for British culture. Is that correct?
Indeed.
Where do you get that from?
And that
What evidence do you have of that? Is what I'm
the
saying.
evidence is in the slide before of the many vast brands, names that come from British culture and have been imported to North America worldwide, and they have significant brand equity and loyalty.
So you're saying, because these brands are worldwide, then that concludes you to jump to the next slide. Do that. And the next slide. That's what you're saying.
And it is absolutely a gut judgment. And
Oh yeah, is it a...
it is absolutely. And it is simply no way to really.
You've answered your question, basically. Go back to the slide. Okay. Sorry, I just can't. No, keep going back to that slide with all the brands on it. I don't think anybody cares where they came from. That's my opinion. Here's my gut judgment. I didn't know some of those were coming from US. Didn't care. I just
but this is.
Don't care.
we
James Bond
believe
is US, is British, yes, but it's basically North American.
I understand your concern. Well, we believe this is what will.
I didn't even know Hugh Laurie was British. Don't care. Anyways,
I don't ask some others.
go ahead.
Yeah. So we believe this is an conspicuous attempt to attract the youth market. So this is indeed our substantiated but also gut judgment on the fact that this is going to be something that the youth market will see demanded.
Can you flip through the slides which one presented?
The one presented?
Not. Oh, is that one presented?
Yeah.
Okay.
Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Just
I never saw these ones.
That's a lot of slides.
How many slides do you have left?
Many.
All right, can you just focus on the financials right now? So on the bottom, those are months. So in about 12 months, you want to hit about double, almost triple, or 3 to 4 times as many current website viewers. And how will you exactly drive this demand?
We're going back to, yeah.
It's based on the fact that we're trying to change Union Jack newspaper from not just a website where you can read some articles and learn about things. We're changing it into like a community, a social gathering, a hub where youth, adults, elders can all come together, share their opinion, discuss their opinion, and because of the way the website will be user-friendly, it'll be a nice place for people to come and interact with each other. Because of this interaction, this website will be able to attract readers, and the concept of internet critical mass, where as you reach a certain number of people who know about your website, who like your website, it will have a snowball effect, generating more viewers and more people coming.
Got it here. Are you going to be paper, or are you going to be online? Where, first, yes or no, which one is focus? Paper or online?
In the short-term focus, there's definitely, we need to solve the problem of how to secure advertising for the Canadian paper. But in the long term, that paper is going to be irrelevant.
Okay.
And so this is our solution to that.
I'm 22, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people engaged in here are 20-something. How many people read newspapers? Use? 1, 2. Are you serious? All of you read newspapers, not
Everybody only teach them to do that.
no, was it paid?
Yeah.
Paid.
Not like, I pick up Jordan Strait maybe once or twice a year or something like that. I read newspaper. That doesn't mean it's really newspaper. How many, are you a frequent reader?
Yeah.
1 to 5 times a week.
There's 24 hours.
Okay, never mind.
There's Metro. It's everywhere.
Thank you, Andy.
Well, first question is, are you guys aware that you guys are going to be within 15 minutes?
I'm sorry.
You guys were aware that the presentation is going to be within 15 minutes, right?
It was 20.
It was 18. 15 days.
But you guys were aware of the time, right?
What we thought was going to be 20.
Now, the presentation, you did a full study. I can see that. But so far, you keep on readjusting basically what Union Jack paper is all about. You have not added any value to this project. Why I say that is this. You keep adjusting that to bring the British culture to the gateway, which is really good. You re-emphasize the goal of the existence of this newspaper and the success of this paper so far. But you mentioned about the trend, and I'm pretty sure the editorial of the whole newspaper is pretty much aware of that. That's their job to bring the content into this newspaper in North America. But how is your strategy going forward to ensure the success? But I'm not talking about you working on the news editorial room. You're the business trying to give the whole company a direction, whether you should move to online right now or what other projects that you should incorporate the tools to ensure the future success. What is the 5-year position of this company? You're going to make the entire North America, your US kids, everybody play soccer? Something like that? What kind of position? What kind of the position that would you want the Union Jack paper to be 5 years from now?
So I didn't understand quite the soccer, but if
Basically, where are you in 5 years? What are you and where are you?
in 5 years, the paper will not be quite there yet because of growth, and we're starting from basically nothing. But to create this platform where it is a hub and gateway for North Americans to consume British culture, and it is youth culture from the grassroots. And that is the only way to secure the youth market.
Well, I totally like the idea that you're stimulating the demand. You want to create the demand, right? I'm only coming this.
I want to clarify the figures, please.
Oh, yes.
These are monthly figures, right? So
Yes, these
8,000
are
a
actually,
month.
yeah, these are actually monthly figures.
Are you stating that they're going to grow 0.5% per year or 45% a year?
0.45% per year. This is based on the figure given in the case study that states that the newspaper industry in Canada is growing at 0.4 to 0.5% per annum.
Okay. And then what about online advertising? What is that growth forecast?
This number is actually, the growth of this is actually going to be linearly and exponentially. It's exponential because our viewership is growing at an exponential rate, and at a certain point, the viewership will hit critical mass and it will spike, and then it will reach a limit where it will kind of head towards plateauing. But the value that we figure we have here is actually based on the fact that we're given knowledge of premium sponsors charging $25 per 1,000 views. So based on the fact, and the current fact that we have 250,000 view hits per day on our website, we were able to determine that it's approximately 6,850 for just one premier. And based on the fact that individual smaller advertising companies pay anywhere between $500 to $600 to $1,200 per month for ads, we estimated that based on value of each ad, since 1,000 ad is worth $25, we proportionate to 1,000 ad worth $50, we determined there were approximately 5 small companies who will actually agree because it was actually cost beneficial for them, and that would give us the $1,185 figure.
Yeah, so I have a couple of things I'd like to say. One is a couple of things that I think you did really well, that I really liked, which is that you laid out clearly the question of the business model. What is the business model? And I think that's a fundamental question for a newspaper like that. But I was a bit surprised after when you explained the business model with the profit and the revenue model, is that you didn't consider there the subscription component. You only discussed the traffic and the ads component. And then after in your assumption on your options, you looked at the subscription component. So here there was a little bit of a disconnect. Where there was a bigger disconnect is how you made the decision of which option to go to. Because I didn't see any framework, any clear explanation. You decided to go with a high risk, high reward. But to me, it's just a matter at that point of risk aversion. Because if I prefer to have the low risk aversion, then the option you chose is not any better than, actually worse than the option I would prefer if I'm risk averse. Okay? And that goes along also with the comment you just made, which is we start from nothing. I don't think you can say that to the owner of the newspaper. He's been trying to build value day after day. You need to recognize the value that's already there. And that brings me to the next piece, which is another thing I appreciate about what you did. You did try to define the magazine and what it would be, by that gateway, control gateway. But now, what you really propose here is a diversification strategy, because you are looking at a new audience and a new product. right? It's a new audience, you go after young people, that's not your core market right now. And it's a new product because now you are really trying to change the content and the value that you are proposing to that audience. So here's my question, why don't you start a brand new newspaper instead of building an existing one?
Because
since it's not the same audience and this is not the same product, why not starting something from scratch and keep that thing going? Because that you still have an audience there that you are trying to serve of older people who are used to print, to use a print magazine.
perhaps this was not exactly shown in our slide, but indeed that is exactly what we implied through our consultation. In the short term, we are keeping the newspaper as it is, appealing to the audience it has appealed to with the same content. And this strategy of the gateway, it is only in the long run. So in the short term, with expansion to Canada, the newspaper still does exactly what it does. And this is simply a long-term strategy to plan for later. And perhaps, I would like to address your first concern. Could you restate that again?
Well, just the way you decided to go with the higher risk, higher reward. And I think if you are looking at a continuum where higher risk, higher reward, lower risk, lower reward, why do you assume that as the owner, I would prefer than the third one? It doesn't look any better to me if I prefer lower risk, lower reward.
If we could figure out how to animate things on a Macintosh, it would have been different. Because the issue is that that graph is at the point of implementation. So those things apply, the risk and reward apply at the point of implementation. In the long run, the other two solutions would have negative reward because they are unviable. Without any sort of web presence, they're unviable. And the subscription wall, the reason we didn't continue, we didn't incorporate that perhaps into the profit equation is because the subscription paywall is simply absolutely undoable for paper like the Union Jack. So that was discarded absolutely from the beginning. But it is, we put it in here because it is a popular option for a lot of newspapers trying to transform from print to online.
All right, cut. Just one comment from each judge, please. Any comments?
I don't know that I agree with your last two answers, but that's
I have so many, and I'm limited to one.
Your top one, come on.
All right, I guess the top one I would say is more of a suggestion. As a learning, if you go back to your criteria slide, which is about second or third, and it's way back. The comment I will make is your criteria is actually recommendations rather than criteria. You actually presume a solution by saying that. You see, you're saying there, well, we're going to measure what we're doing by how well we create a web platform. That's already a solution. You're going to appeal to platform to you. That's already a solution. So 3 of those are solutions rather than criteria. Your criteria, your last one's criteria. We want to grow. We want to do it in a time frame. We want to worry about cost. All those sorts of things. That's criteria. But those 3 are actually recommendations. And those presume the solution already. So as soon as you stated those, you know your answer. And you can't any other answer other than those 3 is actually eliminated because it won't meet those 3. So you can't use those as criteria. You have to use criteria as what is it the company needs? What is the company needs? They don't, not a solution, but what are you trying to do? Why are you doing this? The question is, criteria is why are they doing this in the first place? They're doing this to make more money, right? To grow the business. Well, then say that as your criteria.
Since you're the second last group to present, you front-loaded your presentation by stating right away, this is pretty much going to be our solution. We're going to make a gateway. Then you kind of led up to why you select that. So that was great. You had so many elements in this, and it's nice to see that it's very comprehensive. But if you can't present it in time, then you have to know what to cut out.
I talked to you yesterday about over-analyzing. So I see that you still have a great analysis of things. Same thing for him. Same comment. Even though you think you have 20 minutes, doesn't mean you have to aim for 20 minutes. Shorter, concise is better. My attention span is 10 to 15 minutes max.
Actually, less than that, but anyways.
So,
Going well.
yeah, I browse news on this in this class.
I know, because I watch him do it.
So, concise, less is better sometimes. Okay?
I mean, I agree with most of the judge, and the criteria was met perfectly. But again, like there's a shorter representation, and I'm not sure whether they were allowed as opposed to maybe give hangouts if they were doing the presentation.
No printer.
No printer. So basically, a lot of information. You guys did like really thorough study, and I like the creativity on the British culture thing by identifying all the brand names and stuff. But a lot further research to support your conclusion. That's required. Because like Bob was saying that it's a mere suggestion, not necessarily a deductive reason. But besides, you guys caught my eyes, but too bad the presentation I couldn't see to the end of it. That's all. Right.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Can you please tell the next group's comments, please?
I'm going to use the watch.
Oh, okay. Are you trying to catch this? Yeah, now. Yeah, it is. Emily, and
Hi,
Hello.
I'm Emma. Nice to meet you.
So that's why you.
Don.
we're so
Hi.
The best
Hi,
Hi there.
nice to meet you. I
you.
think we bumped into you.
Thank you earlier.
It's all right. My name is Jack. Are you good?
Not too bad. I'm Matthew.
Hi, Emily.